There are a few cars that are quite as universally loved as the Mazda MX-5. It's a car which has appeal worldwide and has been snapped up by thousands of fans who appreciate its lightweight nature and robust build quality. But how does it incorporate into the ecosystem of 2023 sports cars? Is it still a viable option, or are there other cars out there that just feel a little bit better to both drive and live with? Well, we're going to get behind the wheel and see what it's like to drive, find out what features it has to offer in its interior, and see what kind of practicality a car like this can offer. So let's dive in and see just what the MX-5 can do out on the road. The Mazda MX-5 exterior design has definitely evolved over the years, but it's retained some of those key features that made it so popular in the first place. One of the main features is its size. It's still impressively compact and feels very pleasant compared to some other cars on sale today, which feel to have grown and expanded too much over the years. This car in particular looks very smart in its Sol red exterior paint colour, and I also like the contrast black sections, like the front splitter, which just give a nice bit of edge to the MX-5's overall look. The MX-5's interior is quite traditional in its approach. For instance, we've got analogue dials for the rev counter and for the speed, but it's contrasted nicely by a small screen in the left-hand binnacle, which is for key information as well as your fuel levels. The ergonomics in this car are excellent though. The gear selector is just where you want it to be, and the same goes for the handbrake. And the steering wheel has some nice adjustability to it as well. There is a small screen, and though it is quite compact, you still get Apple CarPlay, so you can easily mirror your smartphone screen onto the display there. The only problem is that its orientation's quite flat, so it means that it can be a little bit tricky to see and operate when you are on the move. But it's nice and responsive, and it's easy to use and easy to get up to speed with. In terms of storage, the MX-5 doesn't have a lot to offer, but then it is quite compact, so there aren't any door bins for water bottles, but you do have some good sized cup holders in the middle, and there's also a lockable storage section here, which is great for putting valuables and keeping them out of sight when the roof is down. And speaking of the roof, it's entirely mechanical, so you operate it by hand, you can open it and lock it into place and do the reverse when you want to put it back down again. It does mean that you can't change it at the press of a button, but you could argue that means that there's a lot less to go wrong, and that definitely plays into the MX-5's great reputation for reliability and low running costs. Obviously, as a compact sports car, the MX-5 is never going to be able to offer a huge amount of boot space, but actually it doesn't do too bad in overall capacity. There's 130 litres available back here, and the whole area that you've got is quite deep, and it's actually a little bit larger than you might think you'd get from a car of this size. All right, you're going to have to lug things over the top of here, and if you've got heavy bags, then you have to watch out to not scratch this area here. But certainly for soft weekend bags, for when you're going away in your drop-top convertible, I think this is going to be proving more than enough space. The MX-5 has always been a big hitter in the UK, with people who appreciate the fact that it's lightweight, it's easy to drive, it's easy to maintain, and relatively frugal to run too. But how does it stack up these days, now that it's been on sale for, well, quite a long time in its current guise? It's still a very pleasant thing to drive. I've personally always found the seating position just to be slightly off, simply because I just feel like I'm sitting quite high. I'd like to be sat a lot lower in the car. I feel like my body and chest is too far up, and my knees are too high as well. That's quite a personal aspect, but what about the rest of the car? Well, as has been much lauded over the years, the 6-speed manual gearbox that we've got is very pleasant. It's one of the nicest around, and actually it's one that you'll find in a lot of different vehicles, including cars like the Morgan Plus 4, or even many of Caterham's vehicles. And those kind of cars are ones which are focused on driver engagement, so this must be pretty high up if they're using it afterwards. Now, the MX-5 is available with a 1.5 litre engine, but the one we've got today is a 2 litre version with 181 brake horsepower, and it's naturally aspirated, so we've got no turbochargers, we've got no lag, we've got instant response. But my history with the MX-5, I've always found the throttle response to be just a little bit soft. And because it's naturally aspirated, you really have to rev it out to get the best from it. Modern turbocharged vehicles have got us quite used to staying in higher gears and just rolling on the throttle and waiting for that turbocharger to kick in as we get some more performance. But in the MX-5, you really have to just nail it down in second and third gears if you want to extract the most amount of performance possible. What about the overall refinement in here? Well, The ride quality is good. The MX-5 has always had a softer suspension setup than you might expect for a sports car of this type to have. And that means it deals with road imperfections very pleasantly. I'm getting a nice little patter from the front wheels through the steering wheel too, so it helps it all feel quite alive and quite connected. And that's what this kind of two-seater sports car is always meant to do. The exhaust note isn't too intrusive either. It's just got quite a nice quality sound in the background. And even when you're stepping on it, it's not obnoxious, it's not too loud. It's just quite pleasant overall. Also, because you're relatively cocooned in the cabin, the breeze coming across or through isn't too dreadful either. As I've said, I do feel like I'm sat quite high up, so the top of my head is starting to get a bit of the breeze coming over the windscreen, but it's not too bad, and I don't feel like I'm having to shout to get over the weather that's coming in here. The pedal positioning is also spot on the MX-5. That's always been a great feature. So for downshifts, it's really pleasant to heel and toe, and you can get it done straight away. So for enthusiastic drivers or for people who like to just get the most out of each gear shift and brake pedal, it's always been a great choice. Naturally, with a relatively powerful engine, low weight and rear wheel drive, you do have to be a little bit cautious about the MX-5, particularly when it's wet. It's quite a snappy car, and when it's going to go, it's going to go, and you do have to be on your toes a little bit. But actually, if you just drive it nice and neatly, there's loads of grip to be found, and you can drive it enthusiastically without worry that it's going to snap. It's not like some sort of widowmaker car. It's just the kind of vehicle that you need to treat with a little bit of respect. And actually, it's a great one for learning initial ideas about how rear-wheel drive cars control, because everything's happening at relatively slow speeds when it does go. You just have to be ready to catch it. Overall, I can just see why the MX-5 is so popular. It's a really easy car to get along with, and it brings loads of feedback, which is important in a car like this. As a convertible, it's definitely up there, and certainly through the summer months, it's going to be very exciting to drive every day. If you're after a sports car that isn't going to be too costly to run, it's going to be reliable, and is going to start on the button each and every time you want to head out, then I still think the MX-5 is one of the better choices out there. Of course, you're going to have to bear in mind that this car can't deliver the kind of space or practicality of other convertibles, but then that isn't the point of the MX-5. This is a car to enjoy and to make driving the most exciting that it can be for the lowest cost possible. Plus, you've got to remember that since the MX-5 has been on sale in its current guise for quite a number of years now, there are a great number of used options out there. So if you want to make even more of your budget by looking in the used segment, then there are loads of MX-5s to choose from. What do you think of the MX-5? Do you think it's still the king of lightweight two-seater sports cars, or is there another option out there that you'd rather own? Let us know in the comments section. Please leave us a like if you have enjoyed this video. And if you'd like to be notified whenever we upload a new review, you can subscribe to the motors.co.uk YouTube channel and just hit that bell icon.